a net leadership rating of -19. And that's what I call Prince Harry territory. And I tell you, I think if this government keeps going the way it is, by Christmas he's going to be in Prince Andrew territory.
Breaking right now, it is all collapsing for this new government. Slippery Starmer mired in so much more scandal as the flurry of revelations about the dodgy money and favours that he took from Lord Alli are threatening to overwhelm his new government. Now, Matt Goodwin at the Reform UK conference said that Starmer is in Prince Harry territory, but it might be about to get a lot worse. Watch this.
Now that gives him, in my world, a net leadership rating of -19. And that's what I call Prince Harry territory. And I tell you, I think if this government keeps going the way it is, by Christmas he's going to be in Prince Andrew territory.
Matt Goodwin, Keir Starmer, extraordinarily unpopular. He has had a disastrous start.
He really has, Dan. I mean, just simply through the lens of polling, he's collapsed about 30 points since becoming Prime Minister. I mean, you know, if this was a Conservative in office, you can imagine the reaction from the media class. There'd be calls for resignation, there'd be, you know, outrage. I mean, remember the early days of Liz Truss or some of the days of Boris Johnson. But this is a government that is incredibly unpopular very quickly. Indeed, I argued this would happen before the election. It's not just Keir Starmer, by the way, Dan. It's also Rachel Reeves. She's collapsed about 30 points. Fascinating polling last week from YouGov. They said to the British people, give us 5 words or phrases that come to mind when you think about the Labour Party. And not a single one in the top 5 was positive. It was dishonest, doesn't represent the values of ordinary people, looks after itself, etc., etc. They're all the same, was the basic view. And I think this scandal, you know, to me, it's less about Lord Alli and the ins and the outs and the detail. To me, Dan, it's about a deeper point, which is Keir Starmer says he's playing by the rules, and he might be playing by the rules. But I tell you what he's not playing by is something that is absolutely central to our culture in this country, which is the British people's sense of fair play. Is this guy treating us with respect? Is it fair play? Is it balanced? And on the conclusion of the British people, the answer is an emphatic no. He looks like he's taking everybody for a ride. I mean, Dan, he earned over £400,000 last year.
Yes, he's worth
now.
10
Why does a
million.
guy earning over £400,000
He's got
need
a massive
free
pension
glasses
pot
and suits? I mean, come on, let's get real here for a second. And as you know, having gone through the Partygate scandal, you documented the reaction to that meticulously. There is an incredible hypocrisy, not just within the Labour movement, but actually, I would argue, much of the media class and the political class, which came down on the Conservatives like a ton of bricks. And I think certain journalists, who I will be diplomatic and not name, have struggled with the current scandal engulfing the Labour Party because they're showing their own political bias.
Well, I mean, I will name one, Paul Brand, who went after Boris Johnson relentlessly over, let's be honest, in the end, a piece of cake. He has not yet reported on this scandal. Well, I hope he's looking into it because there have been new developments today. And Matt, I know what you mean about sort of the details don't matter because in a lot of ways they don't. It is about the hypocrisy, but I do sometimes wonder if there are those iconic images that relate to scandals like this. So I want to show you the video of Starmer's message that was given to the British public. This was in December 2021. Omicron had happened. I mean, by this point, I would say the lockdown restrictions are absolutely ridiculous. You should all do whatever you want. He was saying, you've got to stay at home. And this was the message that he filmed with a bookshelf behind him. I want you to look at this carefully because there are family pictures on this bookshelf. So the clear implication, the message that is being given to the British public is, here is Keir Starmer speaking to you from his home, given he's telling you to work from home.
At times like this, we must all put the national interest first and play by the rules. Of course, I understand that sticking to the rules can be inconvenient, but stick to the rules.
Now, Matt, I do just wonder if that is going to resonate with people, because it's so obvious that Lord Alli would not have had a photo of Keir Starmer's family on his bookshelf. This was manipulation, wasn't it?
I mean, this is going to become the story of the weekend. It's going to be debated for the next couple of days. It's going to become bigger, but it may well then become the story of the year if Keir Starmer continues to handle it as badly as he has done. Like after the riots and the protests, he seems to be unable to understand why the public mood is the way that it is. Even watching his interview, you showed a clip earlier with Christopher Hope, he just doesn't seem to understand why people perceive this as being foul play. You know, this guy's obviously in some shape or form buying access to the Labour Party. We've also discovered, as I'm talking to you at the end of this week, that he's given an enormous interest-free loan to a relative of another Labour MP. We know that Angela Rayner and Sam Tarry stayed at an apartment in New York at his expense. We have seen a Labour Party that on the one hand is saying it's on the side of ordinary working people, but on the other hand is clearly in the pockets of a multimillionaire donor. Now, if this was turned around the other way, we would simply not hear the end of it. There would be calls for resignations. There would be calls for public apologies. And I just think it's been a disastrous start for the Labour government. And Dan, path dependency in politics matters. So from where you start shapes the eventual outcome. Nobody can say that's better than Liz Truss, right? Now, from where this Labour government has started, this is going to shape the overall outcome. And I think we're going to be in for 5 years of very unpopular government in this country. I mean, looking at the people involved. This is no
Blair in 1997, is it? Goodness me.
Well, that's the thing, Dan. I mean, the level of political awareness.
Best time of year, isn't it? Football is back. We're talking Premier League in the UK and in the US, NFL Sundays and college football Saturdays. And with that comes the glorious grind of fantasy football lineups. This is where your inner manager comes alive, setting the perfect fantasy roster, screaming at your TV and making last-minute waiver moves that either make you a hero or the guy everyone ridicules in the group chat. But listen, while you're over here making sure your fantasy team is dialed in, don't let your personal grooming become the guy that gets left on the bench. Because let's be honest, nobody wants to fumble their grooming routine. This is where Manscaped's Performance Package 5.0 Ultra comes in, acting as your all-in-one grooming playbook. From keeping things sharp down below with the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra to taking care of those rogue era nose hairs with the Weed Whacker 2.0, this is the lineup that'll keep you looking and feeling like a champ on and off the field. It will make you feel clean, confident, and ready to dominate your fantasy league. So, the Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra Groin and Body Hair Trimmer, it's the franchise player of your grooming roster. It has precise trimming capabilities, it's reliable, efficient, and gets the job done without fumbling. Whether it's for a date night, a weekend tailgate, or just everyday grooming, this is the tool you want on your squad. Now, no one wants a nose or ear hair making some sort of guest appearance on game day, so the Weed Whacker 2.0 handles those details like a pro, keeping you neat and ready to go. No missed tackles in your grooming gang. And we have 2 free gifts to offer you today as well. The Boxers 2.0 Midnight Bravo and the Shed 2.0 Toiletry Bag, premium gear to ensure you're always ready for action, whether at home and on the road. So join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped like me and get ready for kickoff by heading over to manscaped.com. If you use the code Outspoken at checkout, you will get 20% off your entire order and free shipping. So trust me, you'll be drafting the real MVP of grooming this season. So let me repeat the website, www.manscaped.com. Use the code Outspoken at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. Stay on top of your grooming game and be ready for anything the season throws your way.
It's extremely low. I mean, the one thing I struggle to understand about this scandal just before we move on is Keir Starmer knew he was likely to become Prime Minister. He knew he was going into Downing Street. He was leader of the opposition, and he still made these decisions to take donations and freebies from a party donor. He knew this was going to come out.
Yep, and he he doesn't like being questioned on it either. And I just want to show you this interview with Beth Rigby, because what I think is interesting about this, Matt, is that Rigby has actually been sympathetic, certainly compared to how she used to challenge Boris Johnson on these sort of sleaze scandals. But he is still really agitated by the whole thing. Watch this.
Out that.
Be some people that would also want a private place, have a different environment where they would like their child to go so they could have a better opportunity. Do you see how it looks to some people that there's one rule for you in terms of being able to claim this stuff that other people don't have access to?
Well, I think that's why the rules are there to declare it. But look, every day...
Do you get it, though?
Every day...
Do you get how it looks?
If you're putting to me, Beth, that I should have stayed in my Kentish Town home and disrupted my son's GCSEs, that was the right thing to do, then I think you should put that to me.
OK. Well, you're saying that you shouldn't have stayed in the home because you wanted to protect your boy.
I wanted him to be able to do his GCSEs, and any parent would have made the same decision. I don't wake up every morning thinking about that.
I mean, this has not been well handled, is it, Matt?
I mean, it's outrageous. I mean, it really is. If you look at the way he's packaging his answer, you know, he's sort of offended to be asked the question. There's lots of mums and dads and families up and down the country who would have loved to have sent their teenager during COVID to a nice, quiet space to prepare for their GCSEs. Dan, I was teaching many of those kids at university who had to go through COVID and the horrific time of doing the exams during the COVID pandemic. They didn't get that advantage. And of course, now Keir Starmer is simultaneously clamping down on the parental choice to send their children, if they want, to an independent, to a private school. He's whacking on the fees relating to that. Well, why can't they be free to do whatever they want to do for their child without penalty? Why is Keir Starmer suddenly different to mums and dads across the land? And this is why two-tier care, free gear care, these names have now become household currency. I mean, he's a household name, and I think his brand is deeply, permanently damaged. I think this is doing real damage to Keir Starmer and the government.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.